One of the rewards I'm finding is just a belief in the power of art and seeing what it does to actually animate, activate people's motivation, their passion, their connection to each other. I think it's sorely needed now. One could argue that social justice for me is actually a kind of participatory democracy. In other words, we're reclaiming democracy, which means we have to be active, we have to engage each other, we have to dialogue and discourse as a precursor to action together. And this is just my take, we are increasingly in jeopardy, if not, one could argue, already lost many aspects of our democracy. So really what this work for me is about modeling ways of reclaiming democratic process. And art making and storytelling and theater is, I think, one of the most powerful ways. So when I see that happening, the reward is people wanting more. The challenge is sustaining it, sustaining the dialogue, sustaining the community that comes together temporarily to actually take action together. And that requires focus and time and support.
Well, one of the rewards I think I have been seeing is that this game plan and this process is done in varied populations. So it could be children with special needs, it could be people in prison, it could be welfare to work recipients. It doesn't make a difference who the audience is. They still get it. They go from A, B, and C, and they all feel the same way. And then they walk out like, wow, didn't know that, or a aha Oprah moment. And just to see that happen so many times just says that, you know, there's something that's happening here, something positive that's going on. And you just want to keep doing it all the time, every day.
One of the rewards is seeing how theater humanizes folks, where they can literally use their senses, see what they see, feel what they touch, move their bodies in ways that they don't move because of how our lifestyles sometimes mechanize us, whether we're driving a car a certain way or sitting in a cubicle. And so theater making, watching people suddenly become alive and human and young and free and using their imaginations. Now it seems like it's all play, but it's serious play, because if we're going to solve problems, we need people who are developing imaginations to imagine those solutions. And this work is not mutually exclusive from celebration, joy, and pleasure. And that's what art provides. It's why we're dealing with difficult dialogues or difficult issues. We're also enjoying our humanity in the process.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I just want to add that we're also reflecting upon our own journeys. You know, we're also looking at ourselves. And so one of the rewards is learning more about ourselves as we do this work with other folks learning about themselves in the same way. So we can look at those characters and we can look at our own journey and see the masks that we wear throughout the day when we talk to various people or whatever, and just be able to gain that knowledge as well. So it also has to do a little selfish reflection.
So, like I said, there's varied forms of this theater, and we just like to capture some of them. Like tell them about the theater where you just do it instantly. Help me out.
Do it instantly?
Playback theater?
Not playback. The theater when you just make it right there, and then people see it, and then they don't know that they're watching the theater.
Invisible theater.
Yes, invisible theater. That's
theater.
when you would create a scene, and you would do it in front of an audience at a bus stop or on a corner, and the people who are watching don't know that this is actors, but they will comment on it.
And or take action.
Yeah, or take action.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of forms.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then you have a dialogue with the folks that are standing around, you know, paying attention to the scene that you've created.
Yeah.
One thing about the word mindfulness, though, that you make me aware, we're talking about discourse and dialogue. And I know there's this continuum of work that's being captured by this project. But we recognize that ultimately, you were talking about different purposes, looking back at the past. This dialogue is a precursor to action. So we are situated there, but we definitely have models. We also want, if we could sustain it, would lead to policy. Bilal wanted the dialogue to lead to policy change. Mm-hmm. He even had something called legislative theater. Yeah. He worked as an assemblyman in Rio as on the council. He was pushed into service, so to speak. And then he used forum theater with the community and hatched 16 laws that came from dialogue, but they resulted in policy change, right? But bottom line with art making is that we want everyone, and we think what art does is it makes us more alive, awake, and aware. And so when you said mindfulness, I thought that's what we're after. That's democracy, that's social justice. If we're more alive, more awake, and more aware, good things will happen.
With action, because there's no need to be alive, awake, and aware and ain't doing nothing.
Yeah,
I'm
and-
aware, but I ain't doing nothing.
and taking the action that is needed also, and that's where you have to have this dialogue with folks in the community to actually, you were talking about legislative theater. Augusto Boal said, once he passed the law that people didn't need, it was the only law he ever passed that he thought was really important in Brazil, that he saw something in Europe when he was there, and he brought it back to Brazil, and people didn't need it because it was a totally different culture. And so the one time that he didn't use dialogue, that he just thought, oh, I'm going to do my own thing, really it was something that people didn't need or want. And so the important thing about this policy making and how it leads to, and how all of this discourse leads to policy making, is really making sure that you get to unpack the situation with all of the key players in the room, however you do it, so that you get the right policy and not a misguided one.